Today we will learn life cycle pattern in algae, which has been a very basic course in BSc Botany. In algae, five basic type of life cycle patterns are found. These are diploid, haploid, isomorphic, heteromorphic, and triphasic. Along with these five basic life cycle patterns, you may find in your textbook that there are numerous type of variations of life cycle pattern in algae, which are nothing but the mixed form of these five basic life cycle patterns. So it is very important to have a clear cut concept of these five basic type of life cycle patterns in algae, because in algae we'll find these five uh, basic life cycle patterns when you move forward towards bryophyte from algae. You will find the life cycle pattern in bryophyte changes. When you move forward towards pteridophytes, you will see the more gradual changes. So it's very important to have a very clear idea about these life cycle patterns. Okay, the first one is diploid. Why this life cycle pattern we have classified as diploid? Because the in the illustration at the lowermost portion you will find the thallus, illustration of the thallus. uh, example fucus, which is a very common example you will find in your every textbook. I have collected these illustrations from few references book. I have mentioned it at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. You can consult that books also. So this is a uh, thallus of fucus. Uh, this thallus is you can see it in naked eyes. It is more or less 1 to 1.5 meters around. That is a that is we called macroalgae. Mainly, you will find in the coastal areas, seas. Uh, so this fucus, the thallus body is diploid. That is, in its cell they have double number of chromosomal sets. That's we call diploid. So the thallus body is diploid. The diploid thallus produces on reproductive maturity produces gametes. So by meiosis, so when meiosis occurs, diploid from the diploid thallus, the gametes are formed, and the gametes are the only haploid phase in this life cycle. So once the gamete forms, they will fuse together. Two gametes fuse to form a zygote. So when two haploid gametes fuse, the zygote will be diploid. Once the zygote forms, it will eventually germinate and will grow into a large thallus body. That is, in case of fucus, that is diploid. So the majority of the portion of the life cycle consists of diploid phase, and a very fraction of part, that is a very just only the gamete part in this life cycle are haploid. Hence this life cycle are called diploid. Now the second one, that is haploid. Why we are calling it haploid? Just you may find this type of life cycle pattern in Cara, Idogonium. Hmm. These two species are also very common. You will find it in any textbook. Hmm. The illustration I have taken from Phycology by Lee, Robert Edward Lee. Uh, in just think about the diploid, where we can find a small portion, that is the gamete only, are haploid. In case of haploid life cycle pattern, it is reversed. That is, the majority of the life cycle are haploid. That is, thallus body is haploid. From the thallus body, uh, zygote form in gamete forms, that is also haploid. From the when the gamete fuse, that is when two haploid gamete fuse, a diploid zygote occurs, and the diploid zygote is the only diploid phase in the life cycle of this type. Now, what now in after the formation of zygote, meiosis occurs. So, when meiosis occurs, the zygote eventually develops into four number of zoospores, which are also haploid, and then the thallus body will grow up. That is, all the part are haploid except zygote. So what is the difference between that diploid life cycle and haploid life cycle? In diploid life cycle, meiosis occurs before the formation of gametes, and in haploid, the meiosis occurs before zygote germination. That is the difference. That is, the place of meiosis is also different. Okay. Next, isomorphic or homologous. Why we are calling these isomorphic or homologous? Iso means similar, morphic means structurally. So when the two phase, here you can see the upper part that is mentioned diploid in red, and the latter and the lower part that is mentioned haploid in yellow. Both are the thallus body. The both the thallus body looks similar, very similar. That is structurally identical. That's why they are called isomorphic life cycle. Now, the life cycle the life cycle consists of a haploid gametophytic plant part and a structurally identical diploid sporophytic plant parts. That's why we called it isomorphic. A very common example of any textbook is ectocarpus. We will study the life cycle of these algae in later videos. Okay. Now come to the heteromorphic or antithetic. Why we are calling it heteromorphic? Because the sporophyte and the gametophyte are sporophytic body and the gametophytic body are structurally and physiologically different. That's why we are called, that's why we are calling these heteromorphic. In heteromorphic, two events can occur. Sometimes the gametophytic plant body may be large, that is what we are seeing. What we see is the thallus body, that is macrothallus, that is maybe gametophytic, or it may be it may be sporophytic. Just see here that I have mentioned two separate examples. One is laminaria, that is you are seeing the photo here is laminaria, where gametophytic plant body is small and the sporophytic plant body is large. Now the gametophytic plant body consists of haploid set of chromosomes, and the sporophytic obviously is dual set of chromosomes, that is diploid. So in the first cases, the gametophytic plant body and the sporophytic plant body, it will occur in cyclic form, where we will find the thallus body is large, sporophyte, that is, and that the thallus body is sporophyte and diploid. In case of Cutleria, these things have occurs reversely, that is the sporophytic plant body is very small and the gametophytic plant body is large. Okay, these two type of events we can find in case of heteromorphic or antithetic life cycle pattern. Now come to the last phase, that is triphasic. Why we are calling it triphasic? Because in the illustration you can see two dip, one haploid phase and two diploid phase. Hence the whole life cycle are divided into three stages: haploid gametophyte phase, diploid carposporophyte phase, and diploid tetrasporophyte phase. This type of life cycle is very common in red algae. I have seen here the life cycle pattern of Polysiphonia specifically, because that is a very common in every textbook and in every syllabus of any universities. So these when we'll study the red algae life cycle, we will discuss in details about these three phases. But in short here, that life cycle consists, a single whole life cycle consists of three phases. One gametophytic phase, that is haploid. Second carposporophyte phase, that is also a diploid, and tetrasporophyte. Now what happens? Just see the female that is female gametophyte and male gametophyte. So these plants we will find in our vicinity. From female and male gametophyte, that is haploid phase, you will find spermatia, and Carpogonium. Spermatia and fuse to the egg, forms diploid, and eventually the whole carpogonial cells, etc., convert into a carposporophyte, which still hangs on the gametophytic plant body. So, but this is another phase, because this carposporophyte produces carposporangia and eventually carpospores. These carpospores, when fall off from the carposporophyte, will germinate, and another plant body we will find, that is called tetrasporophyte, will grow up. In these tetrasporophytic plant body, meiosis occurs inside the tetrasporangia, forming tetraspores, which is the haploid cell. Now the tetraspores fall onto the surface and germinates, which gives rise to the male and female gametophytic plant body. Thus, the whole life cycle covers 3 phases. That's why we are calling it triphasic, and this is very important because uh, these these are the typical life cycle pattern found in red algae. Okay, now these are the references you may consult. If you have any doubts, then obviously you can ask me. Thank you.